Yo, what's up? This is your boy Oscar Ntege again with yet another amazing tutorial. In this particular tutorial, I'm going to go in a full depth of frequency separation. I see a lot of YouTube channels giving free action packs of frequency separation, promising you photographers and retouchers how great your photos are going to be when you download those particular actions. What they don't put into consideration is that people use different cameras, they shoot in different formats, and who shoot large, some shoot small, some shoot raw, some shoot JPEG, whatever format you choose. The kind of frequency required for an image shot by a 50 megapixel camera is completely different from that of a 20 megapixel camera, and so on. In this tutorial, I'm going to fully explain to you how frequency separation works. This tutorial is not just about teaching you the steps of skin retouching and how to use frequency separation, but it is going to give you a full understanding of what frequency separation is all about. By the end of this tutorial, I promise you your pictures are going to be different. You will do pictures that are going to add value to your craft as a photographer, to your craft as a retoucher. Stick with me. It's going to be quite a very long tutorial in comparison to the tutorials I've been making for you in the past days. My goal is to see you progress and improve your photography. If growing and improving your photography is that important to you, just subscribe to this channel right now. Let me just give you a second to subscribe. Okay, let's do this. Yes, I guess you finished subscribing. If you haven't done it, please go ahead and subscribe. I want to give you the best that I have so that we can make the photography industry in general better. Enough with the chit-chatting. Let us dive into this tutorial and we see how we go all about this. Now, this is the picture we're going to work on. This is Michelle, my fiance. The reason as to why I'm using this particular image, these particular images went very, very viral. People loved these images so much on Instagram and Facebook. They loved everything about the images. So I wanted, and many photographers came into my inbox asking me how I do skin retouching and the rest. In this particular one, I'm going to take you through those steps of skin retouching. It was styled by a stylist called Tasbon Solomon. He's a king of Afrofuturism. He's very, very good. I just love the way he styles these. And this is some other thing that could really add value to your projects, whatever you're doing. Without further ado, let's dive into this. Now, frequency separation. For those of you who don't know what frequency separation is a technique used by most of beauty retouchers, commercial retouchers, and the rest to edit those high-end mug shots you see, those high-end beauty shots you see in Cosmopolitan, Vogue, Vanity Fair. Those top magazines all use frequency separation. But do they use it the way you use it if you know how to use it? Now, if you want to know how it works and understanding everything, this will put you in a better position to do great pictures. Your next pictures from this project won't be the same. Let us begin. You begin definitely by duplicating layers. You just come and duplicate this layer twice. You do it by dragging this below. And what we are going to do, we are going to name this downer layer tones, and we are going to name this upper layer textures. Now, let me explain this. I'm going to explain it to you like I'm explaining to a 5-year-old. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to separate tones from that. When I talk about tones, I mean the color, these skin colors, the browns, the blues. There's that color you see when the hues you see when you look at an image is going. We are going to separate the tones from the textures. Textures, now everything that you see that has texture, the pores, the pimples, the hair, all these things, these are textures. How these rough surfaces, these are all textures. The tones are colors. So we are going to separate the textures from the tones, but the way we are going to do it, we are going to steal textures from the tonal layer and copy all of them in the texture layer. Do I make sense? That is why it's called frequency separation. So we are separating the textures from the tones. Now let's first unsee this by removing the eye icon. So you come onto the tonal layer. You come to filter. Please, I need your attention in this particular section because this is where most retouchers mess up. You come here and say blur and say Gaussian blur. Now, Gaussian blur. Now, let us first take it to 0. Let me explain this to you. Now, everything that you're going to blur out from this, from this particular layer, is going to resurface in this upper texture layer. Do I make sense? Now, let me rephrase it again like this. Yeah. Every texture that you would want to appear in your final project should be blurred out in this particular layer. If you want to retain a certain amount of texture in the final piece, that is the amount of texture you blur out in the tonal layer, because every bit of texture you blur out in this first tonal layer is going to resurface again in this. I don't want you guys to just cram digits and say here he put it at 9 and you put it also at 9, but you need to understand why I put it at 9, because if you found another picture maybe shot with a 12 megapixel camera, you may have to use most probably a lower blur because of the few pixels a particular camera has. Now this particular shot is done with a Nikon 850, and it's almost 45 or 46 megapixels. It is really a big photo. So don't cram digits if you want to get consistent results. Now we are going to blur out all the textures we want. So we're going to look out for the kind of texture we want to see to blur out in this particular image. Let us zoom it out here a bit. With our favorite texture, with the skin texture we want to retain is this particular one. I think I love the skin texture around here, this particular skin texture. So we're going to blur it out until we see it invisible. You see it from here and also see it from here, until the texture is completely gone. That is when you know that, yes, I think we shall keep it at that. Don't overly blur it to a level that you cannot recognize that these are eyes, this is the nose. You still need to get the identity of a person. We are only blurring out texture. The texture I want to retain is what I've blurred out. Please do not cram digits. If you're following along and using a camera that has maybe lower pixels than the camera I used, or you're using a camera with more pixels than the one I used, please don't cram digits. Just understand how the whole thing works. So in this particular thing, we have blurred out all the texture we want to retain in the final product. So we're going to say, okay. Now, the next thing we are going to do, we are going to come here on the texture layer. Now, it is time to steal all the texture we blurred out from this tonal layer and transferring it to the texture layer. How are we going to do that? Follow along with me. I need your maximum attention. Yeah. Image, you come here at image, you say apply, you come here at layer. The layer we want to get our texture from is the tonal layer. Remember, every texture we blurred out, now we want it to reappear in the texture layer. So we're going to come here and say tones. We want to subtract that texture off the tonal layer that we had blurred out. So you come here and say subtract. Now, when it comes to here, leave the opacity at 100. Now, the digits that work the best here at subtract, it is 2, yeah, by 128. Those are the digits you should place there. In fact, your picture right now should look something like this. That is, if you're following along. Now, the next thing we are going to do, we are going to say, okay. Now, when you look at this, let me just zoom it out here for you. Yeah, I'm going to switch off these bottom layers so that you see the texture I'm talking about. So now, when you look at this image, do you see these are all textures we have left in this particular image? Let us switch these things back on. So after doing whatever we did, we are going to come here and say linear light. Linear light. Your picture should look like as if nothing has happened to it. It has to look like the background layer, you know. Of course, it may look like this it looks like this, but trust me, there is activity taking place in the whole image. Let me switch this off for you again one more time. Do you see how we still have our texture on top? You know, this is now our texture, you know, and this is our tonal layer and this is our background layer. So we're going to work with only these. So now it's time to work on the skin tones. Some people prefer using the smudge tool. I have no problem with that, but I, for one, I prefer using the Gaussian Blur because it gives me more precision than what the smudge tool does. So when you come here, you come and let's zoom it in. So we are going to feather. You feather this in between 18 and 35. I'm a neat freak. I love beautiful things. I love perfection. So I'll keep it at 18 here. So you come and select all around the cheek area. You come here at filter. You say blur. You come and say Gaussian blur. Now let us put this to 0. Now we're going to move these knobs until we see this texture really, these tones getting looking great. Let us see. You blur this. Don't take it overboard. Some people have a tendency of taking it overboard and a picture ends up having a flat look. Now, this is too overboard. You know, you don't want again somebody to lose those beautiful contours, those beautiful highlights they have. You blur it out to a level where you see that the skin tones are really, really looking nice. You don't want to take it overboard because she may end up looking like a textured doll, which we don't want to. We want her looking just beautiful, you know, if still retaining the texture of the skin. You want her to look at her skin and say, wow, I have a very beautiful skin, you know, but still retaining the texture. So we're going to keep it around, I think at 20 is okay. Then we go to another part here. You say again filter, blur, and yeah, you're still maintaining the same. So you go selecting various parts. One may be wondering, why don't I just select the whole image and just apply this whole effect to the whole image? The reason as to why we don't do that is because we want to retain the shape of the face. The face has a bit of depth. It has a bit of flat areas. It has a lot of carved areas. So you still want to retain the depth of the face. Most people do it in a very uniform way and they end up having pictures that look flat. And I'll show you how to create even more dimension in the face in my future tutorial by using banning and dodging. But for now, we are going, let us concentrate on frequency separation. So we are going to come here again and select there, which I'll just press Ctrl F depending on the kind of Photoshop you have. You can, if you have like CC 2017, you have to press the Alt as you are doing this. Remember, the last filter you put in, You just have to press Ctrl F in order for it to be repeated. Now, when it comes to the nose highlight, this needs its own frequency. Most people use the same frequency over the nose highlight here, and the nose ends up looking flat. You don't want the nose looking flat, because that is not flattering. And the goal is to make somebody look beautiful, to enhance their beauty, so that when they look at themselves, they're like, wow, I feel good about myself. So you come and give the nose highlight a different frequency. See, when you leave it at that, see how flat it looks. Let me first cancel this. Let me just put the current frequency we have. Look at this, rather the current blur. If See how it loses all the highlights, yet I feel those highlights are really, really essential for giving the face shape. So we come and give this a different frequency. So we shall just come and just do it just about, oh, that's too much, just a little bit, not too much. And yes, and you come here at the cheekbone as well. Sorry, the selection doesn't have to be very, very perfect, since we are feathered. So we come and do another frequency here. I know it really, really takes some time, but if you want something beautiful, all the time is worth putting into this thing. We just press Control F. And also, what frequency separation helps is, if you don't have a very good makeup artist on your set, it is another way of like applying foundation on somebody's skin, like giving somebody a consistent skin tones and the like that. So we come here now. When it comes to places that are flat, now look at this particular part. This part is a bit flat. Normally I tend to take the frequency separation around these areas, flat areas, a bit overboard, yeah, for as long as I'm retaining the texture, because they are not usually contoured. So you come and say filter, blur. Yeah, we take it overboard, because you don't want somebody having a skin that looks patched. Since most makeup artists don't do full body makeup, this is where the photographer really comes in, or the retoucher comes in to help these skin tones match. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, and then all these. So we are going to just come and have really matching skin tones. And now let me put these in a group and we look at our before and after. you know let me just put these in a group. Now look at our, that is the before, that is the after. Before, after. Let me just zoom in for you. That is our before, that is our after. Before, after. Before, after. See how we've not distorted her, the shape of her face, but still giving her beautiful tones. Now the next thing we are going to do, uh to remove all these pimples and blemishes. Now this is how we do it. You come here and create a black and white adjustment layer. Now, what you do, you crush the reds, you darken the reds. What this does, it puts all the unnecessary pimples and blemishes to the top. You're able to see all these things. You come back to the texture layer and then you begin retouching and removing them. I don't know what tools you use to remove. Some people use the healing brushes, the spot healing, but for me, I prefer using the clone stamp, because you're practically just cloning, actually copying texture, clean texture, and pasting it on top of the texture you don't want. other than a spot healing brush that sometimes leaves traces, or the patch tool that leaves traces. So that is why I prefer using the clone stamp. Make sure your clone stamp is at 100 opacity and 100 flow. So you come here and just do this. We are going to fasten this so that the video is not so long. I know I promised you to give you a very long video. And by the way, if you haven't yet subscribed, please take a minute and subscribe to this channel if you want to better your photography craft. I mean, you will find it worth it to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be posting lots and lots of photography tips, Photoshop tutorials, things that are going to help you add value to your brand as a photographer and to your craft. So make sure you subscribe, because this is the channel to help you grow. Just begin looking at this as home. So we remove all these pimples and all this stuff, you know, because this is the same retouching you can use even for those portraits, portraits that will add value to you. I remember when I learned frequency separation, my prices changed. Actually, I just had to triple my prices, and people were willing to pay because the results were really worth it. And all these white dots you remove, trust me, if you're working with a makeup artists will even love you more. That is why makeup artists love shooting with Oscar Ntege, because I enhance their work. I make their work look magical, you know. So guys, I'm not saying everybody is going to be working with makeup artists, but if you're into people photography, definitely you're going to find horrible makeup artists where you need this particular technique to help you. So let us remove this black and white layer and see what we have right now. Now, see, we have cleaned, we have cleaned all these blemishes that are bringing. Let us remove also these. Let us remove these lines that really I feel are unnecessary. Don't remove every single line, but there are those lines that what I refer to as stress lines, lines caused by stress. Those you can remove, but there are certain lines you cannot remove that are more of features. Now, if the other technique, I'll show you that other technique in my other upcoming tutorial on how to still retain these particular shapes, but making them look even more beautiful. It will be a very short tutorial, but that will highlight that. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so that you don't miss a thing. you know I just want you to grow. I just want you to better your craft. I just want us to have the best photographers. Now, let me put this. Let me just show you the before and after, you guys. Before and after, before and after. Tell me of a client who wouldn't really love this. Forget the frequency separation you've been doing and turning people into textured plastic dolls. This is something that retains the contouring of the skin and all that, but adding a lot and a lot of value to your images. Guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you next time, and adios.